Welcome. Today, I'm not here to give you quick advice or tell you a simple story you'll forget in a few minutes. Today, I want to talk to you about something deeper, something quieter, something you may have felt many times but never truly explained, even to yourself. Have you ever found yourself surrounded by people, friends, colleagues, even family, laughing, talking, sharing moments, and yet inside you felt completely disconnected, not just alone in the physical sense, but emotionally distant, as if there's an invisible barrier between you and everyone else? You hear them, you see them, but somehow they don't see you. And it's not because they don't care, it's because they don't understand. And maybe they never really tried to. There's a certain kind of person who experiences life differently. Maybe that's you. You don't just listen, you analyze. You don't just see, you notice details others ignore. You don't just live moments, you feel them deeply, sometimes too deeply. And because of that, the world can feel overwhelming at times. Conversations that seem normal to others might feel empty to you. Jokes that make everyone laugh might not move you at all. And suddenly you start asking yourself a quiet question. Why am I like this? Not in a proud way, but in a confused, almost lonely way. And then come the words. Simple words, casually thrown into conversations without much thought. Why are you so serious? You think too much. Just relax. Don't be so sensitive. They say it like it's nothing, like it's advice or even humor. You might smile in the moment, maybe even laugh along with them, but inside something shifts. Something doesn't feel right. Because those words don't just pass by, they stay. They repeat in your mind later when you're alone. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to question parts of yourself that once felt natural. You start adjusting. You try to speak less deeply. You try to laugh at things you don't find funny. You try to act more normal, whatever that means. Not because you want to, but because you don't want to feel different anymore. You don't want to feel like the strange one in the room. But the more you try to change, the more disconnected you feel. Not from others this time, but from yourself. And that's where the real conflict begins. Because now you're not just misunderstood by people, you're starting to lose your own identity trying to be accepted by them. And sometimes the hardest part is when these words don't come from strangers, but from people you love, from your own home, the place that's supposed to feel safe, warm, and accepting. Instead, you hear things like, "Why can't you be simpler?" Or "We don't understand you." Or maybe nothing is said at all, just silence, a kind of silence that feels heavier than any words. In those moments, you might feel like a stranger in your own life, like you don't fully belong anywhere. And that feeling, it stays with you longer than you'd like to admit. But here's something important you need to understand, something that might change the way you see everything. People don't see you for who you truly are. They see you through their own perspective, their own limits, their own understanding of the world. If they've never experienced depth, they won't recognize it in you. If they're not used to sensitivity, they might see it as weakness. But that doesn't make them right, and it definitely doesn't make you wrong. It simply means you're operating on a different level of awareness. At some point, you have to pause and ask yourself a powerful question. Why am I trying so hard to fit into a space that was never designed for me? Why are you shrinking your thoughts, your emotions, your personality just to be easier for others to accept? What if the problem was never you? What if your depth is not something to fix, but something to protect? What if your sensitivity is not a weakness, but a form of intelligence, a way of experiencing life that others haven't discovered yet? The truth is, you don't need everyone to understand you. You don't need to be accepted by every group, every person, every environment. What you truly need is something much simpler, yet much more powerful: peace within yourself. And that peace doesn't come from changing who you are, it comes from finally accepting it, from looking at yourself and saying, "This is me, and I'm enough." Not perfect, not like everyone else, but real. And when you reach that point, something incredible begins to happen. The same words that once hurt you start to lose their power. The same situations that made you feel out of place no longer define you. You stop chasing validation, and instead, you start creating your own space. A space where you can think freely, feel deeply, and exist without pretending. Maybe it's in silence, maybe it's in writing, or reading, or simply sitting alone with your thoughts. And you realize something beautiful. Being alone is not the same as being lonely. So if you've ever felt like you don't belong, like you're too different, too deep, too sensitive for this world, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not too much. You were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who couldn't see your value. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone is meant to walk your path. But that doesn't make your path any less meaningful. Embrace who you are. Not the version people expect you to be, but the version that feels true when you're alone. Your depth is your strength. Your awareness is your power. Your difference is your advantage. And one day, you'll meet people who see that clearly, people who won't ask you to change, people who will understand you without you having to explain yourself. Until then, be that person for yourself. And finally, remember this. You are not a reflection of what people say about you. You are something far greater, far deeper, far more complex than any label they could ever give you. So don't let small words define a big soul. Stay true to yourself, and don't be afraid of who you are becoming. Thank you for being here, and if this message resonated with you, then maybe you were never alone to begin with.